Hey y'all, my name is Lindsay. I'm back with another video, and this time let's talk self-tapes. I recently did a self-tape audition for an upcoming film. It was one of my first ever self-tapes because most of the films that I have auditioned for have been in person, they've been in person auditions, or they've been over Zoom. So I actually get to have more of a dialogue with the directors and the casting team. It was kind of new for me. So despite the fact that I have some light producer skills, aka I know how to make a video look good, I still needed to do a little bit more research to just make sure that I was going to put out a pretty good self-tape. So I will link in the description below some resources that I used to produce what I thought was a pretty good self-tape. So make sure you check that out below. So here I am, setting up my lighting, recording, editing, and I started to think, there might be somebody who is new to acting and wants to break out, or there might be somebody who's never done a self-tape before, or there might be somebody who has done a self-tape before but just needs a little bit of a refresher. So I wanted to create a video that talked about a few tips for success, and here they are. First things first, you want to make sure that your setup is good. You don't have to go out and buy an expensive camera. It's very similar to how we make videos on YouTube. You can simply pull out your phone. Next, I would say to make sure that you have a tripod or something that's going to allow you to rest your phone up against something or be held up at a particular angle or height. And then third, I would say to make sure that your lighting is good. You want to make sure that you can be seen. And maybe this isn't the best setup because I know there's really no lighting on this side, but I would just make sure that you can be seen. You don't have to go out again and buy super expensive equipment, especially when you're first starting, but it is nice to make sure that you just look good and sound good to the person viewing the video. I would also make sure, going back to lighting, I would also make sure that the lighting isn't too harsh. So even if you're not going out and spending money or a ton of money, you just want to make sure that the lighting that you're using to illuminate your face is soft. Next, I would say you'll want to add light makeup. Not heavy, but just a little bit of something to bring out your features. At the end of the day, this is a blank canvas, and they're wanting to know, they want to look at you. They want to see how you perform. It's less about the makeup job. Unless this is you trying out to be a makeup artist, it's really about you and how you present on the camera. I would also say that you want to make sure that you angle yourself in a way that you're not straight on like I am right now. You kind of want to sit at an angle to where they can kind of like see you project outward instead of it just being like this dead on visual. Also, if you are performing a dialogue, you might want to position yourself in this way because especially if you have a reader or someone who is who you're talking to, you'll kind of want to make that apparent that you're talking to someone. And the last tip I would say within this category is to frame yourself chest up. You want to keep it nice and tight so that again they can see you. But I would say even if you go down a little bit past your chest is fine, because again, you don't want it to be so tight that they're kind of missing some of your hand movements if it calls for that, or if you have props, you don't want them to miss that. The second tip would be to try to memorize as much of your lines as you can. When your due date is approaching closely, or if there wasn't that much of a turnaround time to begin with, sometimes you can sort of manipulate the situation to where you are not necessarily having to memorize your lines, but you can possibly read them. I would say do your best to try to memorize, but if you have to, you can always finesse. Number 3, you might want to hire a reader. A reader within the industry is considered somebody who helps you to read your lines. Especially if you're doing a dialogue, you want to make sure that you find someone who you have chemistry with, someone who knows what they're doing, and someone who ideally will allow you to focus on your role. A reader ideally can sit at a distance from you to where you're able to carry out the conversation. Or if you don't have access to a reader or someone who can help you get through your lines, you can do what I did and you can record yourself saying the other character's lines and then play it while you're recording your self-tape. The fourth tip would be to keep it simple. At the end of the day, this whole experience is about showing that you can emote and align yourself to the character's emotions in that time frame, especially if the monologue or dialogue isn't very long, or if there are no words or minimal words. You want to make sure that at the end of the day, you're not playing up the actions or your movements too much. You really want to focus on the emotion. So the best example I can give is that the script calls for you to give someone a hug. You don't necessarily want to break the scene to act like you're giving someone a hug or playing pretend to give someone a hug. It's more so about the emotion. So instead of giving the hug, it's more so the emotion of receiving a hug from someone. And number 5, if you need to slate. Slating within the industry is defined as you giving additional information so that the casting director can make an informed decision based on the information you give. You'll want to make sure that you follow that to a T. So if they ask you to share your name, your height, where you're from, your age, you want to make sure that you do that in the way in which they ask you to. So they might be asking you to film it, and if that is the case, then you'll definitely want to make sure that you're speaking straight on. You want to make sure that you speak in your normal voice and not as if you're in character. And last but certainly not least, you'll definitely want to make sure that you edit and submit. So for editing, I tend to use CapCut. I think it's the most intuitive platform out there, personally. I also feel like you could use iMovie, and that will allow you to add sounds or to do transitions or to easily chop up video. And then lastly, submissions. I would recommend, if the casting director hasn't asked you to submit in a particular way or through a particular channel, I often use either a WeTransfer link or a Dropbox link. So I hope that this was helpful. Remember, you got this in the bag. Get to the bag and break a leg. But no, seriously, you're gonna do fine. And I hope this video was helpful, and I will talk to you soon.